Hello everyone. Today we got you in the front bedroom. We're going to be leveling this floor finally. Most of the work obviously is going to take place underneath in the crawl space. I've moved the bed and some of the stuff away, but I do want to keep this stuff in here because I think it's important to have the weight of the floor on the thing that you're trying to lift. So I don't want to completely move this away. It's important to have the weight on it. I'm going to go outside and cut a bunch of pressure treated lumber to build up the space between the cinder blocks that I have under there and the beam. And that will serve as sort of the cushion between the two, as well as just the bearing surface. Then once I have all that completed, I will be coming back in here with my laser level. We'll establish sort of a line somewhere in the room over here by the door that's behind me. I do have some reference lines and some measurements on the wall here, which really don't mean anything at this point. What I will just be trying to do is just get it as level as possible and bring it back up to sort of the level of the doorway here. And even this doorway here isn't completely level, so I have more work to do on this side of the foundation. There's actually a stem wall that goes right through here. I think this corner right here it's not too bad. It's maybe only like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch lower right there than it is on that side, so there's a little bit of a slope. I think I can probably fix that just on the stem wall. I think I can just shim that up, so I may not need to do too much over here. But that's for another time. We're just going to try and get this gap filled by bringing the floor back up. You can see here we got a fair amount of space in there. It goes down, the space there is about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 right in here. Probably can't see it, but right about there, it's about a 1/2 inch, and then it tapers up to almost nothing by the time you get over to here. Same thing is pretty true over here. There's almost no gap over here, and then it's about 1/4 of an inch low right there. You can also see it in the top of the door here, where there's about a 3/8 to 1/4 inch gap here, all the way to nothing to about 1/8 of an inch. You can see the trim is coming apart right here. Obviously there's these big cracks. Part of the lift is going to push the wall back up a little bit. I don't think it's going to go that much. Now these measurements here is basically establishing, there's a line right here where I had the laser line, and I measured up to the ceiling and then down to the floor, and then what the difference was. So right here we have a difference of 1 5/32. I know I got really precise with this because I was bored. Here we have -1 15/16. So you can see the difference between the floor and the ceiling is almost 2 inches here. And this is all referenced to the measurements I have in the doorway. So basically this right here means that the floor is almost 2 inches lower on this side of the room than in the doorway behind me. We have 3/8 of an inch drop from the ceiling, again reference to the doorway, and then the floor is down an inch, and this is 18/32. Over here you can kind of see the same thing. This is about a 1/2 inch lower. The ceiling is about a 1/2 inch lower here. We're 3/8 lower here, 5/16 here, 7/16 here. So you can see we're basically about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch, pretty much across the board here. I'm not even going to try and get that precise here. If I can get it within 1/8 or even 1/4, I'm fine with that. But the 2 inch drop is a little bit much, and you can actually feel it when you're walking in here, especially when you get down into this area right here. This line is my reference, the laser line that I had in here. And it's 42 3/4 to the ceiling and 53 17/32 to the floor. And then I wrote the total distance from floor to ceiling. This is 96 and 9/30 seconds. And then I wrote that distance, the total distance everywhere. So you can see this is 96 and 7/8, which means that this plus 19/30 seconds is how far apart the floor and the ceiling have gotten from the doorway. So again, here, 15/30 seconds. This is an inch and 18/30 seconds. So there's quite a bit of difference here. This one says 2 and 23/30 seconds. I don't know if I actually believe that. Wow, sorry, floor is falling from beneath me still. I don't know where that number came from then. Yeah, it should be, I don't know why there's two, I think it's 23/30 seconds is the number there, which would make sense from over there. Okay, so again, we're gonna raise the floor up. Hopefully by doing that, it'll kind of push this wall up just a little bit, and then we'll get it true and flat again. But the main goal is just to raise the floor and get this level in this room as best we can without really altering the exterior wall. When I go to do the exterior remediation of this foundation wall, I'll probably jack up the wall more than, because I'll be able to when I get to that stage. Oh, and I need to remember to open this door at least a little bit there, because if this wall does come up, I don't want to pinch that door in there and not be able to open it again. So I don't think that'll happen, but all right, enough jibber jabber. Let's get to work. All right, we got our dunnage, we got our jack, we got a laser level, we have an open crawl space. Let's get in there. Oh, I see them in there. Hey, so it's the next day. I spent a couple of hours in the crawl space right under here, getting that beam jacked up and the floor moved in. And I wanted to get some footage in here of the floor kind of coming up, but again, I'm under there by myself. I didn't want to keep coming back in and out of underneath. But we got that gap closed up. I was pretty happy with the results here. Looks nice. There's a little bit of a gap over here still in the corner, but not too bad. So one of the things that I think it feels nicer walking on this floor, like I don't feel like I'm walking down and falling into the window when I come over in this area. I can see that these cracks and stuff have kind of closed up. You can see where some of it kind of chipped out as I was moving stuff around here. This feels pretty good. So what I want to do right now, just to kind of see where we ended up, is I got my laser level set up here. We're lined up right on that reference line, and hopefully you can see that. And remember, this is my reference. So this is just kind of the reference line I'm using to measure everything else in this room. So right here, the difference between the laser line and the reference line. So we're about, that's about 1/8 of an inch. Again, another maybe 16th, 3/32 there, maybe 1/8, and then probably about a 16th there. The way I see it is our ceiling height has gone up and our floor has come up. So that's what we wanted. Now if I measure here where we're at from the floor, so touching the floor down there, 54 and 7/16. So if we look at this before, we were at 55 and 15/32, which is pretty close to 7/16. So we came up almost an inch on the floor right here. Now from the ceiling down, bottom edge of the crown molding, this line, we're at 42.5. And we can see that before it was 42 3/8. So we're, a little bit more, which is good because that'll match over there a little better. Okay, I'm just showing you the method of what I'm doing here. I'm gonna go around to these 4 different positions out here. This stuff didn't change. These markings, I'm pretty sure they didn't change. I'm mostly looking for the corners, this window and that corner. That corner we already saw didn't change that much. So I'm just gonna go to these 4 positions. I'm gonna do those measurements, calculate the differences compared to our base numbers right here. So I'll bring it back when I get those. We raised the floor 9/16 of an inch and the ceiling came up a 1/16 of an inch. So we came up a total of a 1/2 inch here, but we have to take out this reduction in the gap between the floor and the ceiling. So if we take out 3/16, we're actually at 7/16. So we came up 7/16 here. Again, this is 20, this would be 24 30 seconds. No, this would be 27 30 seconds overall, which is pretty close to 3/4 minus the 1/2 inch reduction in the gap between the floor and ceiling. So overall, we came up about a 1/2 inch over here as well. The results are pretty much the same everywhere. Again, we came up 1/8 from our reference. The ceiling went up 1/8. The floor came up 11 30 seconds. The gap was reduced by 29 30 seconds. So, you know, if we do the math there, we didn't lift anything that much, but we definitely closed the gap and raised the floor. I mean, I don't know, if you do the math on this, it's this would be 14 30 seconds, but then we reduced the gap. So overall, we lifted, but we really closed the gap. Over here, a plus a 1/16, and then plus 3/16 on the floor. We reduced the gap a 32nd. So we didn't reduce it much over here. It wasn't actually as bad over in this corner. This is sort of the temporary stabilization feature, meaning that beam will likely stay under there forever, but it's only really temporarily supporting the floor until I can get to the exterior foundation wall out there, underpin it, and then I'm going to actually jack it up a little more to really get it in line with the doorway over there. This gap between the floor and the ceiling likely won't ever change, because once I've closed that gap as far as the wall will allow, then it just starts to lift the whole thing, which is fine, and that's actually what I want to happen. So from now on, I'm kind of going to ignore the gap. I'll still measure it, but I'm just going to ignore it for the most part. What I really want to see is the floor and the ceiling go up in tandem, and I think that's what will happen in subsequent lifts. So these numbers should go up at the same rate. But you can see here that we're actually still, we're a 1/4 inch low right here compared to the doorway. That's not that bad. In fact, I wouldn't even really consider that much of anything. But then again, and again, we're here, 1/4 inch low. Here we're a 1/4 inch low, and here we're a 1/4 inch low. So, and that's the ceiling. I'd highly doubt we're gonna get any better than that. Here on the floor is 11/16 low, and again, this is compared to the doorway. So we're 11 30 seconds low, 15/16 low, 29 30 seconds low, 11 30 seconds low. I'm going to the 30 seconds here because I can. I'm just interested in the minute sort of detail movement that's happening here. It's just for my own education, just for fun. It's kind of entertaining to me. I enjoy that. But if we just kind of look at the big picture, we're a 1/2 inch low here, we're an inch low there, we're a 1/2 inch low there. I think I can do better in the middle. I can get that up another 1/4 inch. And if I'm within 1/8 to a 1/4, I think that's fine. But again, I'm gonna wait on that extra little lift for when I do the exterior foundation wall. Hopefully at the end of the day, when I remediate the exterior foundation wall, I'll have no less than 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch of variation in this floor compared to the doorway. Anyway, I think this pretty much concludes the foundation remediation temporary fix. I am going to go under there and put a few joist hangers on there just so that joists can't slip out from underneath the piers. Again, this is temporary. I don't know that I'm going to really do much of that. I'll just probably put a few things here and there just to make sure that it can't move around. All right, I think that's it.